Alright, so in today's video, we are officially kicking off the next challenge within the channel. I spent a long time searching and wondering what else I could do in terms of a series of games, considering I've played pretty much every major game there is out there. And that's actually a big problem that we're kind of running into. I've sort of platinumed everything. But I eventually did land on something that was staring me right in the face. 100% completion on my PSN profile. I have 276 platinum trophies, and not once have I ever, and I mean ever, played the DLC in them on purpose in any game that I own and have made videos on, which has been a big deal for years now. People constantly comment asking for the DLC trophies in games and why I don't do them. But it's all been added up to set up this series, and it has been my plan from the start. And no, I did not just make this up on the spot. But in total, there was 140 games on my account in which I have made videos on and not 100% completed. I also did throw in quite a few games I have just started but not finished, including Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and a lot more classics, to be honest. But the goal is for me to finish all of these before the channel hits 1.15 million subscribers. Yes, ladies, we have officially entered the millions territory. It's a magnificent sight to see. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. But starting off the challenge today, I wasn't quite sure what game to do first, and I decided upon one of my favorite games and trilogies on the PS5, being the Spider-Man trilogy, consisting of Spider-Man 2018, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2. Now, the only real game out of these that has considerable DLC is Spider-Man 2018, with a total of 5 DLC packs inside of it, and 28 trophies to get for 100% completion. Spider-Man 2 only has 1 DLC trophy, and it's just from New Game Plus, whereas Miles Morales has absolutely 0 DLC trophies, because that game is a DLC itself, let's be brutally honest here.
Oh my god!
But in total, that leaves us with going after 29 trophies today after the platinums for all of these games, which I already obtained, as we all know. But I, of course, did begin with Spider-Man 2018 because it's the main chunk of what we need to finish. The first DLC pack I chased down was called CTNS The Heist, and this is the DLC content that is relating to the Black Cat. God damn, I'm so hard already. Anyways, it kicks off with a mission regarding a museum being robbed and a special painting named the Maria. So you go swing over like usual, and there's a ton of enemies outside trying to break in. Naturally, you just have to eliminate the threat, and there wasn't any stealth constraints on us. So Lord knows I wasn't about to stealth my way through this, and I just went in head first. Also, I don't know why I was wearing the suit I had on. Me from 2 years ago must have thought it looked pretty swag, and I'm not gonna lie, it does kind of go hard. If I saw a giant glowing white man punch me, I would just give up right after. But shortly after this, all of the goons were also out of the picture, and then you just go inside the building finally, and you have an objective of finding these prints around the place to put them together and be able to access the security room of the museum. And once doing so and making the full hand print, you get inside, turn on the security again, and you see the faded Maria painting is doing swell in its display. Literally just the off-brand Mona Lisa. This is what copyright has done to our poor society, on God. But then those goons from earlier just drive a car through the museum's glass window wall, and yeah, I'm not exactly sure why they didn't do that to begin with. But like you would expect, there was another combat section. It actually lasted quite some time, as a matter of fact, and I was still getting used to the combat again, so I wasn't exactly using everything to my advantage. And that's one thing about Spider-Man 2018 that I love. It's the tools you can use. Spider-Man 2 has like none of these, and it's just crazy how they dropped all of them in that game. It's not a W in my opinion. But eventually you finish your fighting, a cutscene plays and it shows Felicia the Black Kitty drop in, and she confronts Peter. Also a bit of teasing, because if you remember, her and Peter have a bit of a hot pass, if you catch my drift. All I gotta say is good work, Peter. Good work. But then we got cock blocked by a rocket launcher. Pretty typical. Some more fighting ensued. It was pretty basic for the most part, and then another cutscene happened, ending off the mission with Felicia just taking the Maria painting and snapping it in half, all for a simple little hard drive. There had to have been a better way to do that, but okay then. Oh yeah, Peter also had to real fast save those goons from being squashed by a giant rock, and he also jumped on the falling rock, which might have been the dumbest thing to do in the situation looking back at it now, and I found that very funny. Anyways, that was all for the mission, and then the trophy popped from it. Now, in each of these DLC packs of this game, they all have a very similar flow of trophies, usually 3 or 4 from actual missions related to the story, then a few from crimes, screwball challenges, and 100% completion in general. So for the next hour or so, I kind of just swung around and did some of those side things that didn't necessarily give a trophy just for them by themselves, but they did still contribute to that 100% completion that we were chasing down. That trophy for this pack, by the way, is called Seduced by the City, a fitting trophy name with the current relationships going on. But the next mission that did give a trophy was called Like a Fiddle, and this was actually just a collectible trophy of sorts given to us by Felicia's dad, actually, apparently, who was cosplaying as a police chief that we did not know about. And he just sends you up to collect a bunch of artwork around the city hidden throughout it. All of them do appear on the map, thankfully, so this wasn't really hard to do. But upon grabbing them all and going to a meetup point, you find out officially that we have been conned, and that's why the trophy name is called the Long Con. Very funny, realizing we just did that for absolutely no reason. A little bit after that, I also did get one of these side trophies called Disorganized Crime from just completing all the crime in a district, which is a repeat trophy throughout this game's entire DLC list. But here it is for the first time. And speaking of repeat trophies, I got another one after in relation to the Screwball challenges called Screwy. Screwball is that social media influencer in the Spider-Man games who puts people through like torture for entertainment, basically. So it's pretty much just Mr. Beast without worrying about being arrested. And the trophy itself just needs us to get spectacular or better on her challenges, most of which are just combat challenges or swinging challenges, so nothing too complex. And getting spectacular is only the second tier, so it's not even the best rank you can get. And that does make the trophy very easy, so I'm not complaining. But as I am trying to say, I just grinded out all those right here and I got that trophy as well. But again, like I said, this is a repeat trophy across the other DLCs. Although her story does keep going throughout them, it's overall the same thing with her just making us do challenges for her to get more followers, get arrested, and repeat the cycle. But then I finally did make it to another main mission in this DLC called the Black Cat Chase, which is, as it sounds, having us chase after the Black Cat for basically the entire mission. It took us through a lot of cool areas. The chase overall was very good, and it didn't have any super annoying moments, which was nice to see. Ultimately, though, it ends with us catching her, and I gotta applaud the girl's efforts. She got no powers, but still moves better than we do low-key. Also, in the cutscene, there was the famous upside-down kiss thing. Shout out Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies. Andrews are superior, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, these two didn't kiss right now. In fact, there was actually a lot of bad tension between them since Black Cat has a kid, allegedly, and it might be Peter's. Which leads to her agreeing to team up with him to help them both out, and they agree to work together on dealing with Hammerhead, who also has her kid in a cage, I guess. But yeah, then the trophy from that mission popped right here afterwards. Anyways, moving on, I then just did a few more crimes because you do have to complete a large sum of them for 100% completion of the DLC. But then Peter got tired and took a pizza break, quite literally, might I add, and it then throws us into playing an MJ mission. The one thing I did not miss about these Spider-Man games is the relentless push for MJ to be a playable character. Make her squirt like Peter can, and maybe then I'll like them. Insomniac, you heard me, bro. Please do it. This isn't a joke. In all seriousness, though, this just had MJ sneak around and access a laptop with a special shipping manifest on it that could have clues leading to where the Black Kitty's kid is being held at. There was then a little pause in the story and just a quick scene having us and the Black Cat fight a bunch of mafia men at this bar. Afterwards, she then so rudely wasted good alcoholic consumption times and then teased Peter once more, still refusing to tell Peter if the kid is his or not. This girl's literally the worst baby mom ever, and I thought Kim K was bad. Anyways, the following mission was actually the final one with her in this DLC, and you actually team up for real this time and work together to stealth take down all the enemies outside in the shipping yard. It's fairly easy for the most part, especially with her being able to do takedowns as we also do, and it's truly just a complete annihilation, to be honest. But eventually the stealth dies and you have to perform some more real combat. But after that, you get access to this secret hidden away vault that was said to be holding the Black Cat's kid. Upon entering it, you find nothing besides her trademark little cat mascot. She also locks Peter in the vault and then runs away with the valuable item she just stole from it. Yup, the Black Cat has no kids, if you're wondering, and Peter just got dragged along for a few hours for no reason. Woman, am I right? But you do have to get out of the vault and then chase her down because Hammerhead rigged her place to explode, and we tried to warn her in time, but we were too late. Judging by that smile, though, I think she's gonna be just fine. You also do get a to be continued sign after, and I found that very funny for a DLC to say to be continued as if it wasn't already being continued. There is then one more final cutscene showing Peter and MJ talking about what just happened, and again, how did they nerf my girl so bad in the second game? I still cannot let it go 2 years later. What the fuck? But yeah, that finished off the DLC and the trophy from the story then popped. I also did get the 100% completion one after, since I did do everything else prior to that mission. W planning illusion. Oh, thanks guys. Anyways, the next DLC pack I finished was actually the remastered trophies pack, which was in relation to just a few trophies that they added in with the remastered version. And the only one I didn't have was just called the untouchable Spider-Man from completing any enemy base without taking damage. I at first was trying to do it completely with stealth so I could, avoid even the possibility of being damaged. But I would quickly remember that even with full stealth, you are still forced to fight people regardless after the initial wave, so I just tried my absolute best to avoid being hit, and I successfully did right here. And after finishing the base, the trophy then popped, and that's another DLC pack finished with. So I then went over to the next real big pack called CTNS Turf Wars, and this one was heavily related to Hammerhead. In fact, all three of them are kind of tied to him, but this one was majorly related to the guy with the other big character in it being Yuri, actually. If you remember, she was the girl cop that Spider-Man was homies with in the game. But the first mission was called Blindsided, and it consisted of us just trying to track down Yuri Yuri because she was on Hammerhead and she ended up getting captured by him, which led to us wandering aimlessly through this rundown building, occasionally fighting, but eventually you find a security screen and you see Hammerhead literally about to execute her and a fellow officer. Yuri ends up taking things into her own hands somewhat by strong-arming the situation, but ultimately it took us barging in with the lights off to really settle it, and this scene got my wee excited. Great visuals. But that then basically ends off the mission very fast, and here's the trophy from it. The next trophy I got was then called Prohibition, and this is a new DLC trophy in the game that we haven't seen so far, from taking down every Hammerhead front. A Hammerhead front is essentially just another enemy base, and I just went around the map and did all of them, which had combat the entire time. Your goal is to also find these like valuables or whatever, but overall it's pretty much just combat. And it's also not the easiest combat either. With each new DLC pack in the game, if you're going down from top to bottom, they get harder with the enemies in them. So this wasn't as easy as the previous DLC pack was. But after taking everybody out, it did just pop me the trophy, and here it is anyways. I also did farm out those Screwball Spectacular or better challenges next for the repeat trophy like I said. Still functioned in a similar or exact same way as the previous DLC pack. The challenges do vary a tiny bit with like one new one in each pack, but it's literally just the same format. Again, Spectacular isn't even the hardest tier to get, so this was very easy. Here's the trophy pop. Now with both of those finished, however, I did finally get to the real main mission of the DLC, with my next one being called the Lockup, and it began with us first just escorting a police convoy holding the Project Olympus crates full of high valuable items that Hammerhead wants. And you obviously get confronted with enemies while escorting it, and you had to take them out in return, but the first convoy we followed got hard stopped as well, and then even more combat ensued. And after that finished up, there was then the second convoy we had to head to, which was also being stopped by enemies and had the same combat scene as before being needed for us to protect it, but they still got away with more cars full of important things, and we had to do vehicle stopping scene as well. And all of that got done just for us to see a cutscene showing that Hammerhead would get away with what he was after anyways. And he also killed a bunch of cops on the way, which set Yuri off on a vengeance trail to hunt him down and kill him. But hey, we still got a trophy even though we basically just took a giant L that entire mission long. Anyways, the next mission was then called Bring the Hammer Down, and this one was much longer, impactful, and more fun. The premise is that Hammerhead is trying to take over the mafias of New York completely, and he brings all the Dons together to drown them in concrete. You know, as you do. And for the most part of this, you just have to battle the goons to keep them away from the mixer, or else they're going to turn it on and bury the guys even deeper. Naturally, we stop them because it's honestly a very simple goal at hand. You do still have to web the mixer to stop it, however, but then you climb this tower to confront Hammerhead where he has been watching so patiently. The guy is also wearing the Project Olympus suit that he just stole in the previous mission, and from what I understand, it's just a very powerful suit, hence why he has it on to fight us. And the fight overall against him isn't even that bad. You kind of just punch him here and there. He didn't have any crazy moves or anything out of the ordinary, to be honest, so we ended up taking him down easily. You then see a very long cutscene which shows the cops arriving to perform an arrest, and then this hoe Yuri, man, she just walks in, guns blazing as if we didn't just win, and puts the gun in his face ready to just drop the guy right in front of us. We also got chained up by some restrictive grenade things, so we couldn't even stop her, and thankfully you do break free in time to pull her gun up, so she just kind of shaved off Hammerhead's metal part in his head, and the dude was honestly fine. But everybody else was oh so disappointed in good old Yuri. That was then the final mission of the DLC, by the way, and here's that trophy. So all that remained was to get 100%, and this just meant doing crimes in every district because I didn't feel like grinding out all those earlier. And before getting 100%, I did just complete all the crimes in a single district, which was another repeat trophy, and here it is. I then went around and did do 100% completion of everything else, again just crimes for the most part, with that 100% trophy popping only about 20 minutes later called The City Is My Family. And that's another DLC pack nailed out. So the final one in the game that is new content is called CTNS Silver Lining, and this is the hardest DLC out of any in the game, just because the enemies inside of it are the Sable agents, and they have the most annoying gadgets, armor, they're just notorious for being hard to fight in general. But this DLC is also the worst in my opinion. It kind of has no real value considering the other two involve the Black Cat and Yuri, who are both characters that people actually cared about, and this one just involves that one bitch who showed up all of a sudden in the main story and sort of took over the game, which was also kind of an L story beat in general. But the first mission was called Old Friends, and it consisted of us just fighting Sable people the entire time. Also, I'm not even sure if these guys are actually Sable, but they have the same text, so I'm just calling them that. But then Silver Sable herself does show up, all aura farming ass and all, and she absolutely despises us in this DLC because we're nice to her, I guess. So then we do fight her for a little bit. Ultimately though, it just ends with one of the dudes she was after escaping, and then she chases after them, leaving us wondering what the hell just happened at a trophy popping. Now that was a very odd story mission, so I just went off and did some of this side stuff like usual with these DLCs. First, chasing down the screwball challenges again, and like usual, you just gotta get spectacular or better, so here's that trophy pop. But with this being the final DLC, there was also one more new thing, and it had us chase down Screwball herself. The chase was also very annoying because you had to stay in line with her and hit every photo opportunity on the way. It's safe to say that I failed this a few times, and I was not pleased with myself. herself. But once you do catch her, she gets thrown in jail again. And then the trophy from that pops. The next mission I did was then called Aiding a Human. And this actually consisted of quite a few missions, taking about an hour to do them all. But we were helping out some dude that quit Sable and was trying to get out of the gig because it's not doing so hot, as we know with the DLC so far. But the guy's name was David, and the final part just had us defeat a bunch of enemies that were attacking him as to try to get supplies out of New York to be used where they were actually needed. Overall, though, it was kind of a bland ending to the mission. The mission itself wasn't overall that exciting, but I did still get a trophy after it concluded, and here it is. And as I'm watching this footage back, I am kind of noticing how this DLC pack did missions in big chains opposed to just one-offs. So the next one, called Scales of Justice, functioned in the same way, and it had us chase after all these crime scenes where Yuri was trying to uncover what happened and failed to do so. I also don't think it even led anywhere besides us solving a mystery of sorts and getting a trophy. Poor Insomniac ran out of ideas in this DLC pack. It's unfortunate to see, I can't lie. But the final mission of it, which is the only one with anything really exciting happening, was called 1 + 1 = Win. And it had us with Silver Sable fighting Hammerhead, who has since undergone some more major transformations with his Project Olympus body that is honestly now just his body in general. No clue how he is still alive or considered human at this point. And the fight against him was actually pretty hard because we legit cannot damage him due to the current state he is residing in, which led us to doing something nobody expected, crashing a fighter jet into Hammerhead, blowing him up. The guy also stumbled out of it completely unfazed. No, I'm just kidding. He got phased a lot and proceeded to burn alive. Rest in peace, bozo. But yeah, that ended off the DLC with Silver Sable leaving New York once more, some cutscenes that shouted out Stan Lee, the absolute legend, and then the trophy popped. I did have to go do some crimes for 100% completion, but once doing those, the final trophy did pop, and that then let us finish off once more another DLC pack. Now, the only one that remained for this game was then the New Game Plus pack, and there is 2 trophies inside of it, being for completing a New Game Plus playthrough and doing it on Ultimate Difficulty. Ultimate Difficulty is the hardest in the game, and it's no cakewalk, but with the tips given from the guy, it's really not a massive challenge. So I just replayed the game again, and I was kind of bored at this point, seeing as I've played Spider-Man 2018 a ton of times before, and I just know what happens already, so it didn't really interest me that much. But upon finishing it, I got both the trophies, and there isn't much else to say. So that is Spider-Man 2018 100% completed. I then jumped over to Spider-Man 2 real fast, and I shouldn't really say real fast, because the one DLC trophy in this game takes, according to the guide, 11 hours to finish, just from beating it in general on New Game Plus. They somehow chose to add in this DLC trophy and make it the most uninnovative thing ever. I'm sad, Insomniac. You have made me sad today. But like in the first game, you just play through again, and this time it was even easier because you don't need to do it on Ultimate Difficulty, so you can just breeze through it on the easiest difficulty, which is what I did do. And upon finishing the game, once again, the trophy pops. And that was 100% completion on Spider-Man 2, also giving us 100% completion on all 3 Spider-Man games on the PS5. So that was the first entry into my 100% profile, or cleanup of my games in this challenge. Hopefully you guys enjoyed me talking about these DLC trophies. I'm actually pretty excited to go back and do some of the games in this list, and quite a few games I haven't even platinum yet, which is going to be interesting. Shout out Wolfenstein 2 and Black Ops 3. But that's all for today. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow with more.